We welcome you back into the Prowl with Kevin Ace here on HPR, the Sound Radio. We are very happy to have Ryan Krasnoo of the Big Ten Network join us once again. Ryan, a student at the University of Michigan, an intern for Sports Illustrated right now, and I saw him going abroad and having a lot of fun over the summer. So, Ryan, welcome back into the program, brother, and it's nice to have you back with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back.
So, Ryan, obviously you work for the Big Ten Network, but you're obviously a student at University of Michigan, so we'll start you off with that. I'm assuming you were at the game on Saturday night against Notre Dame. How was that experience, and how big of a win was that for your school?
I was there, and it was pretty crazy, especially with the new general admission policy that Athletic Director Dave Brandon implemented. So the student section was packed about 45 minutes before the game, and there was music going, and there was a flyover with five jets going, and it was incredible even before the game had started. And then once the game kicked off and the lights turned on, it was a classic Michigan-Notre Dame rivalry, and it had pretty much everything that you could ask for.
Question, Ace Ford here with Ryan Krasnoo of the Big Ten Network on HPR, the Sound Radio. A matchup of quarterbacks in that game. Tommy Rees coming in for Everett Golson. Everett Golson, as many people know, is suspended for indefinitely, I guess, for this fall semester. He'll be back with the team in the spring. And then Devin Gardner, a guy that we saw play last year for Denard Robinson, but finally this is his team and a little bit more of a pocket presence than Denard Robinson. What were your thoughts about the two quarterbacks, both kind of coming into unique circumstances, but both had previous starting quarterback experience, I guess you could say?
Excuse me. Tommy Rees is a hell of a quarterback. People don't give him enough credit. He actually started the game 2 years ago when Notre Dame came under lights at Michigan. And for the most part, he played a pretty decent game. But Al Borges, the offensive coordinator at Michigan, he called probably his best game as offensive coordinator at Michigan. It was perfect from the get-go, and outside of Devin Gardner's one mental mistake in the end zone where he threw that pick six, Devin played about as well as you could ask your quarterback to play. I mean, if you look at his stat line too, just from that, I mean, he had 4 touchdowns passing, about 300 yards receiving. He had another score on the ground. It was an all-around performance, and Gardner just outplayed Reese, and Michigan was lucky to have him, and obviously came out on top.
Well, obviously a huge win for Michigan, but we'll move on to other Big Ten happenings of the weekend. And I think the big story around the country, obviously Ohio State being ranked number 2. We won't make you talk about them too much. But Northwestern, I think they are now 15th in the AP poll, which is the big poll before the BCS comes out. Talk about Northwestern being 2-0 and what that means for Big Ten football and college football in general.
Northwestern is a great story, but they're people don't give enough credit to the fact that this is a program that's been building around Pat Fitzgerald for the last decade. They're a very talented program, ranked 17th right now in the AP. They're one of 5 Big Ten teams in the top 25 in the AP poll. And, I mean, outside of, Roy Roundtree's crazy catch last year, Northwestern probably should have beat Michigan on the road. And Michigan is going to have an incredible task going into Evanston and pulling out a W there. This is not your father's Northwestern team, to put it lightly. They have a lot of talent because of their reputation of being Northwestern. They don't get a lot of the national recognition, the national TV time that they should. But this is one hell of a program, and Pat Fitzgerald is doing everything in his power to change the culture of football and the way people view the Wildcats. And I think once they get into Big Ten play, I think that they could make a legitimate run for the Legends Division title. And who knows, if they end up with a good matchup in the Big Ten championship, if they're able to pull it out, who knows, that they might be able to take down Ohio State. You never know. So I think Northwestern is a program that's been building for a while, and it's finally all that hard work is starting to come to fruition. And they're part of a conference that the Big Ten, Kev, and and awesome. The Big Ten went 11-1 this weekend. The only loss was Indiana versus Navy, but outside of that, the Big Ten Conference has been playing extremely well, and Northwestern is really starting to become one of the elite members of this 2013 Big Ten class.
And certainly I think that's a good point. Kind of take me right into what I was going to ask you. Ryan Krasnoo of the Big Ten Network joining Kevin Ace here on The Prowl with Kevin Ace on HPR, The Sound Radio. You've got a number of ranked teams in this Big Ten Conference right now. I mean, we also look at Nebraska, Wisconsin, Northwestern, your boys up there at Michigan. You've got a number of teams that are playing pretty well. I mean, no, it's only 2 weeks into the season, but the state of the conference are we going to see a couple teams that are going to be challenging for these maybe pretty big-time bowls or BCS bowls here in the last year of the BCS? Are we seeing a conference that's going to have some prolonged success over the course of the season?
I think we will, especially if you look at how the SEC has started to show a little chink in their armor. You look at 2 ACC teams down 2 SEC teams, Clemson beating Georgia in week 1, and then this past week Florida falling to Miami. So the SEC showing a little bit of weakness, and because of that, I think it opens up a little bit of wiggle room for the Big Ten. But still, I mean, if you look at the top 10 list, you have your Oregons, you have your Stanfords, you have your LSUs and Texas A&M, and even Louisville is in there. Teddy Bridgewater is a Heisman candidate for a reason. His stat line, I know it was a very weak opponent he played this weekend, but his stat line was tremendous, and he continues to get even better. So I don't know. It's going to depend on where the dominoes fall. Michigan ranked 11th right now in the AP poll, so that they could continue to get better, continue to get wins, and crawl into that top 10, top 8. And who knows, they might be heading down to the Sugar Bowl or whatnot. But don't be shocked, I'd say, if you have 2 teams from the Big Ten, possibly even 3, who are getting big-time bids. If Ohio State happens to go to the BCS National Championship game, don't be surprised if Michigan heads to the Rose Bowl or whatnot. And so, it's going to be an interesting final stretch of the season as it plays out. But yeah, the Big Ten Conference is playing as well as any of the major conferences right now.
Well, if you look at Michigan's schedule, I think this kind of sums up your point. As of right now, they would play 4 ranked teams before this season's over, and 4 of those teams are inside the top 20. So clearly the Big Ten is doing some great things. They've got a tough schedule. Ryan, thanks